Now, this one is about Cory Bush. So for those of you who are not aware, Cory Bush has a book now. She was celebrating it with other members of the squad. And this is one of the things that I did tell you a while back. There are certain perks that they get if they're there for at least 5 years. Actually, you can get a book deal regardless if you've been there maybe 2 years, but then you decided to write a book. You just need a publisher, basically. But this is something that comes with the package, right? They get the book deal, they get speaking engagements, and speaking fees. So this is another way that they make money that's not necessarily through their position as a congressman or a congresswoman. So they make money in other ways. So Cory Bush recently was interviewed about her book and about the midterms. And I want to give a shout out to Case Study QB for this clip. Always doing great work. I want you to hear what Cory Bush is saying in this interview and why you should be deeply, deeply concerned about these progressives that are in Congress. Listen to this.
Of Missouri. She's out now with her new memoir entitled The Forerunner, a story of pain and perseverance in America, and we look forward to talking about that in just a moment. But first, want to just bounce off of the Speaker Pelosi's comments. How do you feel Democrats will fare as they head toward the midterms?
I'm optimistic. I believe that we will hold the House. I'm optimistic because since the I will call amazing win in New York just a little while ago, and then also in Alaska, and we're seeing the momentum, especially as we get closer to Roevember. We're seeing the momentum really pick up in people that may say, well, I don't share your views in other areas, but I don't want my right to abortion restricted. And that's been just a huge driver over the last several months.
So, Congressman,
is it just me, or does this not sound like Cory Bush? What happened to that firebrand, that energy that Cory Bush brought when she was running for office? What happened to that Cory Bush? I don't believe her here. It's interesting that she brings up the Democrats' chances with the midterms. She's confident about it, about holding the House. It's interesting because Chuck Schumer is not. And I talked about this like a week or two ago. Chuck Schumer stated that there's cause for concern. He's not certain that they will hold on to the House. Now, that came from Chuck Schumer. So this is really interesting to me. Really interesting. Now, there was something she said there, and I don't know if you caught it, but they are now referring to November as Roevember in reference to Roe v. Wade. They are using Roe v. Wade as a tactic, a marketing strategy to get people to come out and vote for the Democrats. They are basically holding your vote hostage. You got to come out and vote for us, or otherwise there's nothing we can do about Roe v. Wade. And I think everybody should be pushing back on them and saying, if you really cared that much about it, why didn't you do anything about it before? Why didn't you abolish the filibuster when Barack Obama was in office? Why didn't you codify Roe v. Wade into law several decades ago? It's been 50 years. It's been 50 years. And some people forget this wasn't always a Democrat issue per se. And I want to give you an example. For people who are not aware and don't know about the history of abortions in this country, did you know that at one point in this country, Catholic priests used to give abortions? A lot of people don't know about that. When we talk about Roe v. Wade, the win of Roe v. Wade, that happened under a Republican Supreme Court. A lot of people don't talk about that either. So I like to always bring up the history so that you understand why things are the way they are today. So what did that tell you? If it happened, it was granted under Republican court, the Democrats had plenty of time to codify it into law. Plenty of time. Look it up.
I wanted to go right there. When you talk to your constituents, when you and your colleagues talk to voters across the country, how big of a role is the right to abortion as in front of voters' minds, balanced with their concerns about economic issues?
You know, I've seen it play out both ways. I've seen it play out, the abortion rights are a number one issue because some people are looking at it's not just about me, it's about my children and my children's children. But also when we're talking about economics, people are saying, well, gas prices are going down, but utilities are going up. So how are we addressing that? But we have, as Congress, we have looked at that. The president has made strides to help bring costs down, but also using the Defense Production Act to be able to help with inflation and to bring costs down. And we have a lot more work to do, but the big push, that momentum is as it relates to reproductive freedom. And that is why I am actually hosting a statewide tour all around the state of Missouri. I'm looking okay for my seat in November, so I'm going out to help other folks. We have a U.S. Senate race happening that we cannot allow to go to the Republican who's running. We have a horrible, I'm going to call it horrible candidate running for our U.S. Senate seat. Plus, I believe we have another seat that is flippable if we just do the work.
Let's interject here for a second. There was something she said here that just really rubbed me the wrong way.
We're addressing that, but we have, as Congress, we have looked at that. The president has made strides to help bring costs down, but also using the Defense Production Act to be able to help with inflation and to bring costs down. And we have
the Inflation Reduction Act actually doesn't help inflation. The Inflation Reduction Act actually does not bring those costs down. Remember, we talked about this before when they first passed that bill. We said this actually has nothing to do with inflation. It was just basically a even more watered down version of Build Back Better, and they gave it a different name that would sound appealing to people, so the American people could say, oh yay, they're going to try to address inflation, but it actually did not address inflation. So here's Cory Bush basically repeating the same talking points of Ro Khanna and Joe Biden. Who wrote this message for Cory Bush? I don't even believe these words came from her. There's no way you can tell me that this is the same person who was out in the streets protesting in Ferguson. What happened to Cory Bush?
a lot more work to do, but the big push, that momentum is as it relates to reproductive freedom, and that is why I am actually hosting a statewide tour all around the state of Missouri. I'm looking okay for my seat in November, so I'm going out to help other folks. We have a U.S. Senate race happening.
I'm looking okay for my seat in November, so I'm going out to help other folks. What if you weren't looking okay for your seat in November? Would you still not go out to help other folks? Am I the only one that caught that?
That we cannot allow to go to the Republican who's running. We have a horrible, I'm going to call it horrible candidate running for our U.S. Senate seat. Plus, I believe we have another seat that is flippable if we just do the work.
Congresswoman, your memoir tells a remarkable story of your journey from being a minimum wage worker, a survivor of domestic and sexual violence, being an unhoused parent, and moving through all of these phases, all of these challenges in your life to becoming a member of Congress. Talk about how that helped you represent those that too often have nobody remembering their plights day in and day out.
I remember the pain from all of it still today. And I'm not saying that that's healthy. I am in therapy, but I remember the pain of being hungry and only making sure that my children were eating. I remember the fear that I had of closing my eyes too long at night, sleeping in the car, afraid that one of my children wouldn't wake up. I remember the pain of being brutalized by police officers where they threw my body up in the air and I landed on the ground and I was stomped. I won't forget the pain. I remember the pain of all of those sexual assaults, the pain of the domestic violence when I was left for dead. I remember that, and I walk with that every single day because there are people still going through that right now. And as I go to sleep at night, somebody is hurting, somebody's sleeping on the street, somebody is in an abusive relationship, and we go on with our lives as if it doesn't affect us, as if because we don't see it, it's not a thing. Well, I feel it. I feel it, and so I'm going to continue to fight. As long as I breathe, I will fight for my people.
And Cory, you know, I understand that you remember that pain. The president who you continue to defend has been accused of sexual assault by 11 different women. 11 different women. People like to mention Tara Reid. It wasn't just Tara Reid. So I understand that you remember that pain. How can you still defend Joe Biden? And this is the problem with the two-party system, because let's be real. Let's be real here. If it was the other way around, and if Joe Biden was a Republican sitting in the White House, would Cory Bush say that she supports the president? Would she defend Joe Biden? No, she wouldn't. It would be okay for her to go against him because he's not on her team. But because he's on her team, she's told not to speak badly about him. All of them, all of those progressives sitting there, they say nothing about it. AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Cory Bush, all three of them are survivors of sexual assault. Where was that same empathy and support for people like Tara Reid when they came out against the same person that you constantly defend and say is doing a good job? Does it not matter when it's in your party?
Given that you've shared so much of these really deeply painful feelings in this book, what are you hoping viewers will take away and do from reading this book?
You know, I've been criticized for pushing too hard, or my stance in certain areas. Why do you push so hard for police reform? Why do you push so hard for the rights for bodily autonomy? Why do you push so hard? That's the reason. The reason is it's listed in this book. You know, I write about how hard it is, and pitfall after pitfall, hardship after hardship. And is it because I just deserve to have all of these horrible things happen to me? Did I deserve to walk through life in such a terrible way, for some of those years? Was it because it's just me? No. Some of this is policy violence, and so we should fix it through policy.
But you're not fixing it through policy. Some of this is policy violence. I agree. Some of it is policy. Some of the worst crimes that have been committed against the American people has been done through legislation. I totally agree with that. But you're not fighting against it. You're not. What are you doing to push back on it, boo? What are you doing? When are you guys using your leverage to push back on those same policies that are destroying people's lives? When? There's no way you can tell me that's the same woman. There's no way. Now, she went on to dance around about this with Ayanna Pressley and Rashida Tlaib celebrating this book. And I got to tell you, see, this is what it's all about. This is what they care about now. Let me make this larger for you guys because I'm sharing it via stream.
Come on, come on. Okay, y'all ready? Yeah. Okay, y'all open it with me. Okay. She gonna cry. No.
Wow.
So, do you guys see the problem? This is what they're focused on. This is where their focus is at. Mind you, I want to remind you, Cory Bush did come to the Medicare for All March last year in DC. You know what Cory Bush said? We do not agree with what you guys are doing. We do not agree with what you guys are doing. Didn't you run on Medicare for All? If you don't agree with it, why are you at the march? Go home since you don't agree. Oh, I see. We have to get your approval. We got to get Bernie Sanders' approval. We got to get the squad members' approval to do direct action on the outside before we do anything. No, F that. You guys left us. You abandoned us. And all you care about now is writing books and posing on the cover of Vogue magazine. This is what it's all about now. They just wanted to be celebrity politicians. Look at this. They gave Cory Bush a book. I'm sure they've given AOC one. They'll all get books. What have they done?
Look at that powerful. That's powerful. Oh my God. Y'all ready? Hey. All right, the forerunner, Cory Bush. A story of pain and perseverance in America. Today is the day. Look at that. Praise for Cory Bush. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Damn.
I can't show any more of it. This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. Now, I also want to show you how they're trying to profit off of this. This is what I was telling you guys. Hashtag dim exit, by the way. Dim exit was trending because people are starting to see through the bullshit. Look at what they're doing. Hashtag dim exit. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats have had 4 or 5 decades to codify Roe versus Wade, but they didn't. Why? Too valuable as a campaign fundraising issue and political strategy. Look at this. Roevember. Roevember. By the way, you see this name right here, Midas Touch? You see these guys? Remember that name. They've smeared progressives, by the way. Midas Touch. Look at this. Roevember. This is what they're doing. This is where they're at now. And Nevada County commented and said, Midas Touch is a liberal American political action committee formed in March 2020 with the purpose to stop the re-election of Donald Trump in the 2020 United States presidential election. This crazy? Look at this. Planned Parenthood dumps $45 million a year into Democrat election efforts in order to ensure their $1.5 billion a year industry. They should get their money back. Look, this is what they're doing. Let's see how we can make this profitable. Let's see how we can use this as our advantage to get people to come back in the midterms. You've done such a poor job. This is what they have to rely on. And how's that really working out? Because just a couple of days ago, I showed you the numbers in Texas of how many people actually care about abortion as the first number one issue. The majority of people in Texas did not care about abortion as the number one issue. The number one issue was the economy. That's why someone like Beto is losing right now in the polls. Even though Governor Abbott hasn't been a great governor, because Beto was choosing to run on that type of issue, not saying it shouldn't be present, but when your sole focus is that, and you're denying how bad the economy is right now because it's the Democrat president, people see through that. Raziel, the great. The number one issue is always the economy. This is what right? Colin says Cory Bush has now secured her generational wealth. She should be embarrassed that she hasn't worked towards our generational wealth. She got hers. Thank you for the super chat. Praying Mantis. Looks like brunch to me. Yeah, it looked like brunch to me too, Praying Mantis. See the change. Thank you. Yes, Sabby. As Black women, we should call out other liberal Black women. Can't blame gender or race. Simply the facts. Dude, she's completely changed. These people are so different now. So different. I'm going to show you one in a second. And thank you for the super chat. Staccato, David. I'm done with this one party dance of distracting the people. If this government does not work for the people in their house, then let it fall on its face. No one should vote Republican or Democrat. Bingo. I'll take those comments on Rockfin. All well said. Thank you for this tip on Rockfin, JVB. At this point, they are naked, pandering clowns. They don't believe in anything, apparently, but everything is fair game. What is this? Oh, you put this here, Eric? Oh, JB said, what will another congressperson having a book deal do for you and your family? That's a good one. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Ay, ay, ay.